it come down to whether or not our D-line can contain him. If we can, I really like the Buffs in this matchup.
I think this is a game where we're going to be able to get home a whole lot. Like Avery is really tough. Other than having a face that is maybe the most punchable in college football, he is very tough to get. You know, you're not going to get a lot of sacks, but you have to keep the pressure on him. You have to get him to force a decision. I think our secondary is just so much better than their wide receiver core that we're going to be able to, make him have to be picky or make a mistake. Welcome to the Folsom Frenzy podcast. My name's Chase. I'm here with Jake, Topher, and Sreyas today, and we are doing a quick episode. We're just going to preview the Kansas State game coming up during the bye week. Apologies for being a little bit late, but we did do a special interview that we'll either be releasing concurrently with this or very shortly as well. Just looking ahead to Kansas State, big game coming up in Boulder. All of us will actually be there for the game in real life, in person. We might even do an in-life recording of the podcast on Sunday. But just to preview, Kansas State's coming in as a 5.5-point favorite, over under set at 49.5. Bit of a high scoring affair, I guess, expected to happen considering how well the Buffs defense has been playing. Guys, initial thoughts. I think this is probably, I think Jake might have called this the most important game in CU history or something absolutely insane, which he got roasted for in the YouTube comments appropriately.
As he should.
Yes.
But
I did back down from that sense.
No question, this is a huge game for Colorado to not only affirm like we are the team that we think we are, but also to really set us up for the Big 12 race. Kansas State's no joke. I'll do just a very quick preview. Kansas State lives or dies with the running game. You might recognize a familiar face at running back with Dylan Edwards being there, but he is definitely not the star of the show. Star of the show there is Avery Johnson, their quarterback, who has 879 passing yards, 9 touchdowns already this year, but more importantly, kills teams with the run. I think this is going to come down to, can we continue to stuff the run like we have been? Thus far, I'm pretty impressed. I don't know what you guys have, initial thoughts. Where do you think this one's going to kind of run?
I'm kind of worried because I think that the area that we've struggled has been containing quarterbacks running, right? We saw North Dakota State's quarterback Cam Miller running over us. We saw Raiola is not mobile, so we didn't really have to think about it too much against Nebraska. But we did see it come back with Sawyer Robertson. He broke off a couple big runs for Baylor. And actually, even KJ Jefferson had a couple pretty decent runs with UCF. And so this is probably statistically the scariest quarterback runner that we've seen so far. So this is a big test. We'll definitely have to see how it goes, but that does kind of concern me because you guys know this is kind of one of those historic things with CU too. It's just quarterbacks breaking off these big running games, and I like a run defense, but that's one area where I am a little worried.
I will say one thing that gives me a little bit more optimism is K-State does not have fantastic defensive line, and even their offensive line I think is a bit overrated. Their offensive line is headlined by Hadley Panzier. Don't know if I pronounced that right, but honestly, I think their offensive line is average. It's nothing to tell home about, and I think their defensive line is very weak. Arguably, the best player in the defensive line is Brendan Mott, and I think the Buffs, our biggest strength is our passing game when we have protection. And I think the Buffs offensive line, with how much they've grown over the last couple of games, can handle this Kansas State defensive line. I hope not to eat my own words by saying that, but that gives me some optimism. So just wanted to note that before I gave my score prediction.
Have you guys looked at the tape? I haven't seen too much tape on Kansas State, but it was very interesting to see them rack up 12 sacks on the season, but then be rated 124th in pass rush by PFF. That was kind of odd. Some people pointed that out in our Twitter mentions this week too, when we tweeted that stat, or at least we reposted that stat from someone else. And that'll be really interesting because if it really is 124th ranked pass rush, then this could be a rough game for Kansas State. But statistically, I mean, just in terms of counting stats, 12 sacks is pretty good. That is not what I would think of as being a bottom 10 pass rush. So we'll have to see. Have you guys seen any of this tape though?
Well, yeah, I've watched a good amount of Kansas State, but I just really quickly want to throw some statistics out there. They are 108th in the country with passing yards, 180 yards per game, but number 7 in the country with rushing yards, 252 yards per carry. And the reason I think that matters more than anything is that they do a good job of limiting possessions. And it is important that you score basically every time you go out there, because they are going to grind down your defense, and they are going to, and this is what they did to Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State was leading. I don't know if any of you guys caught that game, but Oklahoma State was leading, I think, going into halftime or right before halftime, and the Kansas State just absolutely pulled away with it, because if Oklahoma State was not scoring every time they had the ball, they started falling behind behind K-State. And despite the fact that they're running so much, they're putting up some pretty gaudy numbers. They put up 31 points against Arizona in a 31-7 win, 34-27 win over Tulane. They beat UT Martin, which means basically nothing. But more interesting than anything, BYU, which turns out is actually a very good team in the Big 12. I am starting to believe that the Big 12 this year might be running through the state of Utah, but BYU clubbed them 38-9 at home before they had that nice bounce back win against Oklahoma State. So I'm really glad we're not playing them after that BYU loss, but just wanted to throw out, this is a team like UCF, right? Lives and dies based off the run. That's what everyone was saying about UCF. Have to establish the run. It's a Gus Malzahn offense. Have to establish the run. They have a quarterback that can run. That's exactly what they said about UCF. Because of that, I really like the comparison. I'm hopeful that this game is going to be a lot more like the UCF game than it is going to be like something along the lines of North Dakota State, where even though that quarterback can hurt us, I think we're going to be able to contain it. And if we get them to be uncomfortable and make them have to pass the ball by scoring quickly, I think Colorado's going to be able to control this game.
Yeah,
I watched. Okay, go for it, Jake.
Real quick, Sreyas, I think a lot of those sacks are coverage sacks. I think Kansas State is one of the best secondaries in the Big 12. Their corners, Jacob Parrish and what's the other guy's name? Keenan Garber, are really solid corners. And then their safeties are also really solid. Marquise Single and BJ Payne. But just wanted to add that real quick. Go for it, Topher.
So I watched the Kansas State offense against UT Martin defensive film from the coach's perspective. A couple of takeaways that I have from that. We have to turn Avery Johnson into a passer from the pocket. And when he has to do that, he's not a very good quarterback. He's deadly with his legs, but if we can collapse pocket, we can be disciplined about contain, have a QB spy, and force him to make reads down the field. I didn't see a lot of K-State's wide receivers getting down the field open very much against UT Martin. And when they did, it was on those wheel routes, and Avery gave them a good ball. But most of the time, they're covered pretty well. And those are FCS corners against these teams. So I think our secondary is going to have a really good day of making it really tough for Avery Johnson. It's going to come down to whether or not our D-line can contain him. If we can, I really like the Buffs in this matchup.
Who do you guys like as our spy? Because I was thinking, I love Cam Silman and Craig, but I just keep thinking of that about that missed tackle against Sawyer Robertson that sprung a huge play that kind of gave Baylor a ton of momentum. I don't know if he might have just been out of position in that one particular play, but who do you like as our spy? I guess it's to Topher or to Jake, either one of you guys.
It's a great question because I don't think Nakai and Levante are fast enough. I was curious and I searched out Avery Johnson's, get this, Avery Johnson's college football 25 rating for speed. He's an 81 overall for speed. I just had to look it up because I was curious. My funny answer is Trevor Woods, but he redshirted. So I think Cam's a great answer. Topher, what do you think?
Cam could be a good one, but I don't want to take him out of coverage. So low key, this might be a game where we see Jalen Lester come in and play that spy position. I think he's a little bit faster than both Nakai and Levante. I also think we're going to have very disciplined defensive ends. BJ has to have a really, really great game of not letting him get outside. And if he does that, I really, really think Avery's going to struggle Saturday night.
And I don't think this is a game where we're going to be able to get home a whole lot. Like, Avery is really tough, other than having a face that is maybe the most punchable in college football. He is very tough to get. You're not going to get a lot of sacks, but you have to keep the pressure on him. You have to get him to force a decision. I think our secondary is just so much better than their wide receiver core that we're going to be able to, make him have to be picky or make a mistake. But what worries me is that if we don't, I think this is another game, and I think I've been saying this every time, but we have to start fast because we can't have what happened against Nebraska where we're on our heels immediately and then Nebraska was able to play their game, right? We need to start fast and establish ourselves over this team. I think we're going to be able to score on this Kansas State team. Oklahoma State has maybe the worst quarterback I've ever seen in my entire life at the college level. Cody Hawkins would run circles around this kid, and they still managed to put up some points against K-State, right? I think, and I understand Ollie Gordon, whatever, also very overrated. And when we play Oklahoma State, we can run this back on the video. But I think this is a game where we have to establish ourselves again. And so I'm hoping we win the coin toss, elect to receive, and just take it to them, because I think we're going to be able to score, and we need them to feel pressure, and we're going to have the Folsom lights on and be okay. With that, I think I'm ready to give my prediction, because we're just trying to keep this one short. I like the over in this game. I think Colorado is going to win this one big. I think we're going to pull away on this K-State team, and I think I'm going to give it a 37 23 Buffs. And unfortunately, because it's a game in Folsom Field and there's a number next to their name, the student section is going to immediately rush the field for like the 15th time in the last 2 years.
Is it unfortunate?
We'll save
Jake's
that for
kind of changed.
Let the kids have the fun.
So ever since, this is a side note, ever since we caught Jake on camera on the field against ASU in 2016, after he said we should never rush as the favored team against at home, and we blow him out. Ever since then, he's changed his tune.
My official take is I'm against fun. Only rush when they're a top 10 team. That's my official take.
We need to by the way, we need to tweet that. We need to tweet that picture out soon. So yeah, I really want this game, guys. Like, obviously we all do, but as you guys know, it's my 100th game, 100th CU game. It's my birthday, and it's Folsom Field's 100th birthday, right? It was opened on October 11th, 1924. So we're 100 years in. It's just this, everything's lining up. Huge opportunity against a ranked opponent. And frankly, I mean, I don't want to spoil it for our listeners who haven't listened to the other podcasts that we're going to post. But he said it best, right? Our special guest said it best. This is our moment. This is our moment to show that we're here. And we got to get it done, man. So Avery Johnson does scare me, and it just scares me. I'll say it for probably the fourth time. We just got to figure out a way to stop quarterback runs, and it's been a problem all season, despite the clear improvement defensively across the board. But you know what? I trust Robert Livingston. If there's one guy that the Buffs have hired as an assistant coach in the last 20 years, we'll even say, that I trust to be able to put together a good game plan and make good adjustments in the event that game plan is not working, it's Robert Livingston. So I'll take the Buffs. I don't remember if I think I took them before the season too, because sticking with my theme of picking the Buffs when they play at home. But just to keep with tradition, I'm going to have to make this like I'll say 15-8 win.
Ridiculousness. I can go to yeah, to quote Coach Prime, I'm a man that believes in fate and destiny. And this team, they're built for the moment. I think the Buffs are going to win this one with a Mata field goal to win the game. Buffs are winning 41-38. It's going to be a shootout. Neither of these teams' defenses, they're both going to struggle. I know our defense is phenomenal, but I think this K-State team has a really good run game. So I think it's going to be a shootout. 41-38 Buffs.
41-38 Buffs. I really like it. I gave my prediction in our little crossover segment, so we will crossover segment there. All right, this is our crossover section with the Boscoe boys. So first thing I want to kick it off, right? You guys are doing really well as far as your season is going. So if you want to give us a quick synopsis of the people you've played and really what you saw happen against BYU, because I think we both agree that that's probably more of an outlier rather than the rule for this team. So give me your take on the season so far for K-State.
I at least hope it's an outlier. I was there to witness it, so I had to see it up close and personal. But yeah, I think so far the season's gone outside of that one about as we'd expect. You know, we played UT Martin for our FCS game to start, and I think the hope when K-State schedules FCS teams, it's like, hey, they're borderline playoff teams. You know, we don't want to, you know, schedule North Dakota State or South Dakota State, you know, as you guys in Oklahoma State had to go down to the wire. So it wasn't down to the wire, but they gave a decent look, and the running game and defense really looked great in that one. And then we traveled to Tulane after that, which gave K-State fans PTSD because the year we won the Big 12 in 2012 or 2022, we lost to Tulane at home in a nail biter, and really it was going back and forth in that one on the road, down by as much as 10 points. Come back, have a great second half, and then Tulane's driving towards the end of the game. And some folks call it controversial offensive pass interference. It was by the book offensive pass interference. And then K-State's able to get an interception the next play to ice the game out. And I think at that moment, K-State fans are getting a little hesitant. Now, things blow up when we take care of Arizona on a Friday night. You're feeling sky high. Again, T-Mac and Fafita got their numbers, but they scored a touchdown on the opening drive, and they didn't score again. K-State exploded. Avery Johnson looked great running the ball, and I think K-State fans sitting at 3-0, we're all feeling, all right, this is great. This is awesome. Let's get it rolling, talking about how long until we're in the top 10. Then the BYU game happened, as you mentioned, and it was just a clown car of bad moments. 3 drives into the red zone, all of which had a penalty that took a touchdown off of the scoreboard. DJ Giddens, this is his 3rd year playing football for K-State, his first ever fumble, and it just so happened to bounce directly to a BYU player, and they take it in for a touchdown. Avery Johnson, 2 just horrible interceptions. And then, right when you think, okay, maybe we can get back into this game, you have a great punt. They muff it. They're all the way back at the 5. You're thinking, all right, hey, can we pick this up? Can we tackle them? Good field position. No, we have 6 guys who run into each other. We don't recover the muff punt. They turn around and then run it back for 97 yards for a touchdown. At that point, the game was cooked. And I hope it's an outlier because, again, I think there are some things that usually don't happen. That DJ Giddens fumble, the red zone issues, the penalty issues, all of that sort of stuff is things that we haven't seen in the Chris Kleiman era. Turn around, you play Oklahoma State before our bye week, and you're thinking to yourself, all right, you just smoked Oklahoma State. You got to be feeling good. But then at the same time, you see Oklahoma State turn around and lay an absolute egg at home versus West Virginia. So, okay, what's really going on there? So I know I can speak for myself. I don't know if I'm speaking for all K-State fans, but, I'm nervous. I'm mentally weak. Another after dark game in a stadium up in the mountains where I'm sure it's going to be a ruckus crowd. So, I'm kind of I'm getting real nervous for the game on Saturday. I think it'll be a good one, but that's kind of the synopsis as we sit here, at least from my point of view.
Yeah, and I think that was a great synopsis as far as the ups and downs of, just being a college football fan. You think you got a great win against Oklahoma State, and they just come out and just give an absolute dud of an effort against West Virginia. I've watched a little bit of that UT Martin film, and from it, I feel like the identity for K-State is definitely run the football, run the football, run the football. And you said that your running back is a 3rd-year man now. From a fan perspective, do you think he's NFL talent? Because I saw the film and I thought he looked phenomenal against UT Martin, but from your perspective.
Yeah, I think DJ Giddens right now, I think he's one of the top running backs in the nation. I think he is the top running back in the conference. Now, just about every school has a running back that they think, hey, no, our guy's the best guy in the conference. Big 12 has a ton of good running backs. But when you look at what he's averaging per touch, when you look at his vision, his balance, I think that's what really makes him great. And again, he's having to come off of, Deuce Vaughn. He's following Deuce Vaughn's shoes, who was a 2-time consensus All-American. And then you're following it up with DJ. I feel like he's going to go down as one of the most underrated K-State football players in the history of our program. So it really is our identity running the ball. Dylan Edwards, who's a Kansas native, spent last year with the Colorado Buffs. He's been a great change of pace back. He's a guy who demands a lot of attention when he's on the field. He's had some big plays. He's yet to really have just a massive breakout game. He's had a 2-touchdown game. I think he has 3 or 4 total touchdowns on the year so far, but he hasn't had a 150-yard from scrimmage type of game quite yet, like he had in your guys' opener versus TCU. But everyone knows he's capable. He got the punt return. So I really do think between those 2 guys and Avery Johnson's legs, which I still think is the most dangerous weapon on K-State's offense, Running the ball really is the identity of this team. That said, Avery Johnson had his best game throwing the ball as a Wildcat or his last game versus Oklahoma State. So if you're a K-State fan, you're hoping that maybe that's a sign of things to come in the future. But that got opened up because DJ was getting at one point close to 15 yards a touch until late in that game. So that running game opened things up for Avery.
Yeah, and on film, it pops out how fast Avery is, right? Like it feels like the moment he decides to run, you got to wrap him up quick or he's good for another 25, 30 yards downfield, especially if your DBs are backing up. And I think that's an area that I'm a little worried about as a Colorado fan. We play a lot of man defense. It's our bread and butter. And one of the biggest weaknesses of that man defense is running quarterbacks. But turning now to the defensive side of the ball, I have not watched a lot of K-State defense. So what is your opinion of this defense? What do you think their strengths and weaknesses are, and what can we expect on Saturday?
Strength really has been our running defense. We're one of the best running defenses in the conference so far. If you look at opponent success rate running the ball, I feel like we have, for the most part, a very assignment sound front six. We play a 3-3-5 most of the time. We've shown some 4-down looks. We've shown some, different alignment with different linebackers. Sometimes it even looks like you have 5-down linemen where you might have a linebacker standing up in a track stance right off the edge as well. So I think that is where they have thrived. There's been a couple games where they've done a great job getting to the quarterback. I think back to the Arizona game, Fafita was running around like crazy, and I think there was only one statistical sack. But in the Tulane game, you got a handful of sacks. I think you got 4 sacks in that one. You had 4 sacks versus UT Martin. Did not get that sort of pressure versus BYU. At times, you struggled to get to Oklahoma State's passing attack. And in those moments, that's where the weakness kind of flies. The safeties have had some communication issues. And I think that is where K-State's biggest fear is coming to this game. Chris Kleiman in his pregame press conference on Monday, he talked about how Shadur Sanders should be the #1 draft pick in the NFL, talking about how Travis Hunter, best player in college football, talking about how it's not just him. They have 3 more guys who, hey, they could all hurt you. They can all go for 50 over the top if you give them a chance. And I think that's where K-State fans' fears are right now, because where we came into the season thinking we might have the best trio of safeties in the conference, they've really struggled in communication and coverage breakdown. And that's where things really get scary if you're a K-State fan. Again, I look back to that Arizona game. Fafita and T-Mac got their yards, but everything was kept in front of them. And I think that's going to be the key on Saturday for K-State. But, it's not just one future NFL wide receiver. It's not a maybe gets drafted in the 5th or 6th round like Fafita. It is a first-round quarterback. It is a Heisman Trophy future winner in Travis Hunter, and then 2 or 3 more NFL guys. So that's where my big concern is on defense.
Yeah, I think that sums it up. I mean, I think K-State's going to probably be our first real test other than Nebraska. I'm very impressed with Nebraska's defense. I think Nebraska's offense is kind of they're kind of frauds. If I'm being honest, I don't think
you don't have to dance around it. Nebraska's offense is fraudulent. Again, it is college football. On any given day, an offense can look like, what was it, the 2019 LSU offense. Any team has the potential in college football to look that good in a night, but Nebraska's offense is fraudulent, which at least from an outside perspective makes that game that you guys played versus them even more puzzling. But again, it's college football, man. Anything can happen.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really excited for this. I think under the lights, it's gonna be awesome. So I will give my score prediction during the regular Folsom Frenzy, but I would love to get your score prediction going into this game, and then I'll let you identify yourself. So if our followers want to go and give you a follow, where to find you and all that kind of stuff.
Definitely. So I think it's gonna go either one of 2 ways. I think if K-State can get their running attack going, they don't turn the ball over, and they play assignment sound football, I think it's going to look something along the lines of a 31 or 34 for K-State to a 21, 24, 28, 27, somewhere in there for Colorado. I think that is where K-State gets it done. At the same time, I could also see it going the other way. Again, I'm talking about I'm mentally weak. I know for a fact that the players and coaches are far more mentally stable than I am. That there's a reason why I'm behind a microphone and they're playing big time college football. But I'd be lying if I said I couldn't see a scenario where Colorado gets the ball first, they go deep over the top, score, K-State doesn't get a score, and then all of a sudden it's 10-14 nothing, and then you're pressing and the wheels fall off, and it could look a lot like that BYU game. Now, I'm not going to predict that because I'm a K-State fan, and what fun is it if you predict your team to lose? Like, honestly,
Exactly.
unless you're KU, unless you're Colorado State, unless you're, by the end of the year, Nebraska, unless you're one of these just down bad programs.
Or your name is Jake Pauley. He predicted that we'd lose.
Well, look, it's no fun if you're a fan and you're going to predict it. Again, I think if you look at some of the advanced stats, and again, despite the betting line opening up around 6.5, and now it's teetering back and forth between 3.5, 4.5. I think there's enough stuff on there where K-State fans can say, yeah, we're going to win this game. But again, I think anyone would be lying if they said that there isn't a scenario where things look very similar to BYU, and then you're having to look yourselves in the mirror before a trip out to West Virginia trying to salvage the season. So I'm going to predict us to win 31. Well, we'll say 31-30 just for the hell of it. I don't know how you guys get to actually here's how it's going to go from my perspective. K-State's up 31 to what would it be, to 24. Colorado scores a touchdown late in the game. They go for 2. It is converted. Everyone's going wild. Whoop, nope, sorry, holding penalty, and then a missed extra point after the fact. So I'm going to make it very painful and very specific. So 31-30 K-State.
And for those that do follow our podcast, that is like my absolute nightmare, having missing a PAT. I play semi-pro. Like, you just can't miss PATs as a kicker.
Well, in the kicker's defense, it is after a holding penalty that then makes it a 30. What would that be? A 37-yard extra point instead of a 17-yard extra point. So that's my super specific prediction. I'm going to stick to it. So my name's Scott McFarland. You can find me at Scott Wildcat on Twitter, or Boscoe's Boys on Twitter. We do one show every single weekday during the football season all the way through the end of the new year. And we've gone over 7 years straight with at least one episode a week. So I've been doing this a long time, and I'm a big fan of you guys as well. And I've been a listener since I found you guys in the summer. Had a couple of your other co-hosts on my show for summer school series. So I'm pumped to be able to do this. And here's a little taste for your listeners. I believe we will have you on for our whip around show on Friday. So if folks want to hear you on my show, be sure to tune in on Friday as well.
Well, thank you so much, and thank you for coming on. Go Buffs, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your season other than this Saturday. And with that, thank you so much for listening to the Folsom Frenzy podcast. If you like the content, please like and follow, subscribe, comment, tag us. And we love the Twitter engagement. If you're a K-State fan and you just want to talk some trash, bring it on. We love it. We love getting back into conference that loves football, like I said. With that, go Buffs.
Let's go Buffs.
Or if you're a Texas Tech fan that wants to talk trash, come at us.
Yeah, Chase.
Let's go Buffs.
I can't wait for that game.